On a frigid December morning in the vast Alaskan wilderness, Staff Sergeant Michael Anderson never imagined that a routine training exercise would transform into a moment that would change his life forever. The howling wind carried more than just snow through the dense spruce forest near Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. It carried the faint sound that would lead him to an extraordinary encounter, one that would touch millions of hearts and challenge everything we thought we knew about the bonds between humans and wild animals. In the unforgiving cold of the Alaskan frontier, where temperatures plummeted to 30 below zero, Mike's trained eyes caught something unusual in the pristine snow. Crimson droplets marked a trail that seemed to pulse with urgency against the white landscape. His military training kicked in as he followed the signs, each step taking him deeper into a story that would soon capture the world's attention. The piercing wind cut through his cold weather gear as Mike tracked the blood trail through the thickening forest. Years of military service had honed his instincts, but nothing could have prepared him for what lay ahead in a small clearing, partially sheltered by towering spruce trees. There, amidst the swirling snow, he discovered a sight that would haunt him forever. A young bear cub, barely 6 months old, fighting for survival against impossible odds. The tiny creature lay trembling in the snow, its dark fur matted with ice and blood. Deep gashes lined its sides, telling a brutal story of an encounter with predators. But it was the cub's eyes that struck Mike the deepest. They held a glimmer of desperate hope, a silent plea that transcended the natural barriers between species. In that moment, the hardened soldier felt something shift in his soul. Time seemed to freeze as Mike wrestled with his next move. Military protocol strictly forbade interference with wildlife, yet every second he hesitated meant one less chance for the cub's survival. The wind howled louder, as if nature itself was urging him to make a choice. With trembling hands that had nothing to do with the cold, Mike made a decision that would set in motion an extraordinary chain of events. Carefully removing his outer jacket, Mike approached the injured cub. The animal's labored breathing created small puffs of vapor in the frigid air, each one potentially its last. Using skills honed through years of combat medical training, he gently wrapped the cub in his jacket, cradling it close to share his body warmth. "Hold on, little warrior," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the storm. "Just hold on." The next hours became a blur of urgent action. Mike radioed for emergency transport, knowing every minute counted. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center erupted into controlled chaos when he arrived, his precious cargo barely clinging to life. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the lead wildlife veterinarian, took immediate charge, her experienced hands already assessing the devastating injuries as her team transformed their medical bay into an intensive care unit. The emergency team worked with precision as they fought to save the young bear's life. Dr. Martinez's voice cut through the tense atmosphere, calling for antibiotics, fluids, and warming equipment. The cub's body temperature had dropped dangerously low, and multiple wounds required immediate attention. Mike stood back, his heart racing as he watched the medical team work, his military training helping him maintain composure even as concern gripped his chest. Hours stretched into what felt like eternity as the team battled to stabilize the cub. Lieutenant Emma Collins, the base wildlife liaison, arrived to document the situation, but even her professional demeanor softened at the sight of the tiny fighter. "I've never seen anything quite like this," she whispered to Mike, who hadn't moved from his vigilant position near the treatment area. The cub's injuries told a harrowing tale. Beyond the visible gashes, Dr. Martinez discovered signs of severe malnutrition and exposure. X-rays revealed microfractures in its right hind leg, likely from a desperate escape from predators. Yet somehow, despite everything, the young bear's heart continued its stubborn rhythm, refusing to give up its fight. For survival, As night fell over the conservation center, the initial crisis passed, but the cub remained in critical condition. The medical team worked in shifts, monitoring vital signs and administering care around the clock. Mike found himself unable to leave, drawn by an inexplicable connection to the small creature he'd found in the snow. He pulled up a chair near the incubator, his presence a steady constant in the cub's fight for survival. During the quiet hours of that first night, Maria Ramirez, one of the veterinary technicians, noticed something remarkable. Whenever Mike spoke, even in hushed tones, the cub's vital signs showed subtle improvements. His military voice, steady and calm from years of crisis situations, seemed to have a soothing effect on their young patient. Dr. Martinez, intrigued by this observation, encouraged Mike to continue talking to the cub. The Conservation Center's director, James Parker, arrived early the next morning to assess the situation. His decades of experience with wildlife rehabilitation made him cautious about forming bonds between humans and wild animals. But even he couldn't deny the unique circumstances unfolding before him. The cub's will to live, combined with Mike's unwavering dedication, created an atmosphere of cautious hope. Through the long hours, Mike shared stories with the sleeping cub. He talked about his military service, about the Alaskan wilderness he'd grown to love during his posting, and about the strength he'd witnessed in his fellow soldiers. Something about the cub's fight resonated deeply with his own experiences of survival and resilience. The medical team began calling the cub Storm, both for the blizzard conditions of its rescue and the quiet strength it displayed in the face of overwhelming odds. Technical Sergeant David Chen, Mike's commanding officer, arrived at the center on the second day. Instead of the reprimand Mike half expected for deviating from protocol, Chen took one look at the situation and simply nodded. "Sometimes regulations need to yield to humanity, Anderson," he said quietly, arranging for Mike's duties to be temporarily reassigned to allow him to continue his vigil. Storm's condition remained precarious through those first crucial days. Infections threatened to overwhelm his small body, and his temperature fluctuated dangerously. The medical team fought each crisis as it arose, their determination matching that of their tiny patient. Dr. Martinez worked tirelessly, drawing on every resource and technique available to wildlife medicine. The center's atmosphere grew thick with anticipation as Storm reached a critical turning point. Every small victory, a stabilized temperature, an improved blood count, a wound beginning to heal, felt monumental. The team learned to read the subtle signs of Storm's progress, each positive indicator strengthening their collective hope for his survival. On the fifth day of Storm's recovery, something extraordinary happened that would cement the unique bond between soldier and bear. The morning had started like the others, Mike arriving early after his modified duty schedule, taking his now familiar position near Storm's enclosure. Dr. Martinez was conducting her morning assessment when Storm's eyes opened fully for the first time since his rescue. The gaze that met Mike's was clear and focused, carrying a depth of understanding that made everyone in the room catch their breath. Dr. Martinez froze in her examination, watching in amazement as Storm's head turned deliberately toward Mike's voice. The young bear's response defied typical wild animal behavior, especially considering his traumatic experience with humans. Instead of fear or aggression, Storm showed a remarkable awareness and what appeared to be recognition of the man who had saved his life. The medical team gathered to witness this breakthrough moment as Storm attempted to move closer to Mike's position. His movements were weak but purposeful, each effort accompanied by soft vocalizations that none of the experienced staff had heard before from a bear cub. Maria Ramirez, carefully documenting every detail, noted how Storm's vital signs stabilized whenever Mike spoke or moved closer to the enclosure. James Parker brought in Dr. William Thompson, a renowned wildlife expert, to observe and document this unprecedented behavior. Dr. Thompson spent hours watching the interactions between Mike and Storm, particularly fascinated by the unique vocalizations the cub used only in Mike's presence. "In my 30 years of studying bear behavior," he remarked, "I've never seen anything quite like this. It's as if they've developed their own language." The next few days brought rapid improvements in Storm's condition. His wounds began healing at a remarkable rate, and his appetite returned with surprising vigor. Yet it was his cognitive development that truly amazed the medical team. Storm displayed an unusual level of intelligence and emotional awareness, particularly in his interactions with Mike. He would watch intently as Mike helped prepare his meals, seeming to study and learn from every movement. Lieutenant Emma Collins worked with military command to arrange a specialized rehabilitation program that would allow Mike to remain involved in Storm's recovery while maintaining his military duties. The base commanders, initially skeptical, became supportive after witnessing the extraordinary connection between the soldier and the bear cub. They recognized that this unique situation could provide valuable insights into wildlife rehabilitation techniques. As Storm's strength grew, preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The rehabilitation team faced new challenges. They needed to ensure that Storm maintained his natural instincts while managing his unusual attachment to Mike. Dr. Martinez developed an innovative approach, incorporating Mike's presence into learning scenarios that would help Storm develop crucial survival skills. They created situations where Mike could demonstrate natural foraging behaviors from a safe distance, which Storm would then imitate with remarkable accuracy. The winter days grew longer as Storm's recovery progressed. Kate Sullivan, a wildlife photographer assigned to document the rehabilitation process, captured countless moments of the evolving relationship between soldier and bear. Her photos revealed subtle nuances in their interactions, the way Storm's ears would perk up at Mike's footsteps, the gentle rumbles he made in response to Mike's voice, the attentive way he observed Mike's demonstrations of survival skills. During this period, Mike spent every free moment at the conservation center. His military discipline now focused on helping Storm prepare for eventual return to the wild. He worked closely with the rehabilitation team, learning about bear behavior and natural survival skills. His combat medical training proved unexpectedly useful in understanding Storm's recovery needs, and he often assisted Dr. Martinez during medical checks. The conservation center became a second home for both of them. Storm's enclosure was gradually modified to include more natural elements, creating a mini ecosystem where he could practice the skills he would need in the wild. Mike would often arrive early in the morning to find Storm already awake, waiting by the edge of his enclosure, as if eager to begin another day of learning and recovery. Ryan Cooper, the center's conservation officer, helped design increasingly complex enrichment activities for Storm. These challenges tested both his physical recovery and his natural instincts. Storm showed remarkable problem-solving abilities, often figuring out puzzles and challenges faster than any bear they had previously rehabilitated. His success in these tasks always seemed heightened when Mike was present to witness them. The unique relationship between Mike and Storm began drawing attention from wildlife researchers across the country. Dr. Thompson prepared detailed reports documenting their interactions, highlighting the potential implications for wildlife rehabilitation practices. The military base also took interest, recognizing the positive impact this story had on community relations and environmental stewardship. As winter deepened, Storm's physical transformation became more evident with each passing day. His fur grew thick and glossy, his muscles strengthened, and his movements became more confident and coordinated. Yet, it was his emotional intelligence that continued to captivate everyone at the center. He showed an uncanny ability to read human emotions, particularly Mike's, and would often adjust his behavior accordingly. The rehabilitation team began discussing long-term plans for Storm's future. While his recovery was exceeding all expectations, they faced complex questions about his eventual release. The bond he had formed with Mike, while remarkable, presented unique challenges for his reintegration into the wild. They needed to ensure that Storm could survive independently while honoring the trust he had developed with his human guardian. Spring arrived in Alaska with a burst of renewed energy, transforming the landscape around the Military Wildlife Conservation Center. Storm's rehabilitation entered a new phase as the changing season brought fresh challenges and opportunities. The young bear, now considerably larger and stronger, demonstrated an increasing interest in the natural world beyond his enclosure, though his unique bond with Staff Sergeant Anderson remained unwavering. Dr. Martinez initiated more intensive survival training sessions, carefully designed to balance Storm's natural instincts with his remarkable ability to learn from human demonstration. The medical team marveled at how Storm would watch Mike demonstrate foraging techniques from outside. The enclosure then perfectly replicate the movements, showing an understanding that went beyond simple mimicry. Technical Sergeant Chen arranged for Mike to incorporate his time at the center into his military duties, recognizing the valuable insights this unprecedented situation offered for wildlife conservation efforts on military lands. The base commanders began viewing Storm's rehabilitation as an opportunity to develop new protocols for wildlife encounters during training exercises, with Mike providing regular reports on his observations. Lieutenant Collins worked tirelessly to document every aspect of Storm's progress, creating detailed records that would prove invaluable for future rehabilitation cases. She noted how Storm's learning patterns differed from typical bear behavior, particularly in his ability to adapt human-demonstrated techniques to his natural instincts. The young bear showed an extraordinary capacity to problem-solve, often combining learned behaviors with innate abilities in innovative ways. As spring progressed, the rehabilitation team introduced more challenging exercises. They created complex feeding puzzles that required Storm to use both physical strength and intelligence to access food, mimicking the challenges he would face in the wild. Mike would demonstrate the basic approach, and Storm would build upon these demonstrations, often discovering even more efficient solutions. Kate Sullivan's photography captured the evolution of their relationship through these training sessions. Her images showed the subtle changes in Storm's behavior, the way he would pause before attempting a new task, studying Mike's movements with an almost human-like concentration. The photographs revealed a level of trust and understanding that challenged conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation. Dr. Thompson spent increasingly long hours observing their interactions, particularly fascinated by the sophisticated communication patterns that had developed between them. Storm had developed a range of vocalizations that seemed specifically intended for Mike, different from typical bear sounds. These communications became more nuanced as Storm matured, suggesting a depth of emotional intelligence that exceeded anything previously documented in bear behavior. The center's staff noticed how Storm would adjust his strength and movements when interacting with different team members, showing remarkable awareness of human boundaries. With Mike, however, there was a special quality to their interactions, a synchronicity that seemed to transcend the usual barriers between species. Storm would often anticipate Mike's intentions before he even began to demonstrate a new technique. Maria Ramirez focused on documenting Storm's physical development, noting how his recovery had progressed far beyond their initial expectations. The wounds that had nearly claimed his life had healed completely, leaving only faint scars beneath his thick fur. His muscle development and coordination showed remarkable progress, yet he maintained an unusual gentleness in his interactions with the rehabilitation team. As the Alaskan days grew longer, the Conservation Center became a hub of scientific interest. Researchers from various institutions visited to observe Storm's rehabilitation, each bringing new perspectives on his unique case. The military bases support expanded, recognizing the potential implications for wildlife management in training areas. Mike's role evolved to include briefing visiting scientists and military personnel, sharing insights from his extraordinary experience. James Parker worked with regional wildlife authorities to develop a specialized release plan that would account for Storm's unique circumstances. They selected a remote area of the Kenai Peninsula, far from military activities, but within a territory that would support a young bear's needs. The location offered abundant natural food sources and minimal human contact, crucial factors for Storm's successful reintegration into the wild. The preparation for Storm's eventual release intensified as summer approached. The rehabilitation team gradually reduced human contact, though Storm's special connection with Mike remained constant. They observed how Storm would apply his learned skills more independently, showing increasing confidence in his natural abilities while maintaining the exceptional intelligence that had characterized his recovery. Ryan Cooper designed a series of increasingly challenging environmental enrichments that tested Storm's readiness for wild conditions. The young bear demonstrated remarkable adaptability, learning to fish in the center's artificial stream and forage through simulated berry patches. His success in these activities brought both pride and a touch of sadness to the team, knowing that each achievement brought them closer to the inevitable farewell. The story of Mike and Storm began spreading beyond the confines of the military base and conservation center. Local news outlets picked up on the extraordinary tale of the soldier and the bear he had saved. Though the center carefully managed media access to protect Storm's rehabilitation process, the public's response reflected a deep appreciation for this unique example of cross-species compassion and understanding. Summer temperatures brought new challenges to Storm's rehabilitation as the team entered the critical phase of preparing him for eventual release. The long Alaskan days allowed for extended training sessions, each one carefully designed to strengthen Storm's natural instincts while gradually reducing his dependence on human interaction. Dr. Martinez monitored these transitions closely, particularly concerned about maintaining the delicate balance between Storm's remarkable bond with Mike and his need to develop independent survival skills. The Conservation Center's atmosphere grew increasingly focused as each team member contributed their expertise to Storm's preparation. Dr. Thompson spent countless hours analyzing Storm's behavioral patterns, noting how the bear seamlessly integrated learned behaviors with instinctive responses. His reports detailed the unprecedented way Storm would observe, learn, and adapt, showing an intelligence that continued to challenge conventional understanding of bear cognition. Lieutenant Emma Collins coordinated with military command to adjust Mike's duties, allowing him to participate in crucial training sessions while maintaining his service responsibilities. The base commanders, now fully invested in Storm's success story, recognized the valuable insights this unique situation provided. For military environmental stewardship programs, Mike's experience was already influencing new protocols for wildlife encounters during training exercises. Maria Ramirez's detailed medical logs showed Storm's physical development exceeding all expectations. His muscular strength had developed impressively, yet he maintained an extraordinary gentleness in his interactions with the rehabilitation team. The scars from his near-fatal injuries had faded beneath his thick summer coat, though they served as permanent reminders of the desperate circumstances that had brought him to the center. Kate Sullivan's photography captured the subtle nuances of Storm's progress. Her images revealed the increasing confidence in his movements, the alert intelligence in his eyes, and the remarkable way he would still turn to Mike for guidance during new challenges. These photographs would later become part of a comprehensive study on bear rehabilitation techniques, offering unique insights into the potential for enhanced human-wildlife understanding. The rehabilitation team introduced more complex survival scenarios, creating situations that would test Storm's ability to handle the challenges of wild living. They observed how he would approach each new task, first watching intently as Mike demonstrated basic techniques, then adapting these lessons with his own natural instincts. His problem-solving abilities continued to amaze even the most experienced wildlife experts. James Parker worked closely with Dr. Martinez to develop increasingly challenging foraging exercises. They created elaborate setups that simulated natural food sources, requiring Storm to use both physical strength and intelligence to access his meals. These sessions revealed Storm's remarkable ability to combine learned techniques with instinctive behaviors, often discovering solutions that surprised even his experienced handlers. Ryan Cooper's environmental enrichment programs grew more sophisticated, incorporating elements that Storm would encounter in his future territory. The young bear showed particular aptitude for fishing, developing techniques that combined natural bear instincts with surprisingly strategic approaches. His success in these activities brought both pride and a touch of melancholy to the team, knowing each achievement brought them closer to release day. The summer days stretched long, filled with intensive preparation and bittersweet anticipation. Technical Sergeant Chen noted how Mike's reports on Storm's progress had evolved from simple observations to insightful analyses of bear behavior and rehabilitation techniques. These documents would later become valuable resources for military environmental programs, offering new perspectives on wildlife management in training areas. Dr. William Thompson had begun preparing a comprehensive research paper on Storm's case, highlighting the implications for wildlife rehabilitation practices. His observations detailed the extraordinary levels of trust and communication that had developed between Mike and Storm, suggesting new possibilities for understanding interspecies relationships. The scientific community's interest in their story continued to grow, bringing both validation and additional pressure to ensure Storm's successful return to the wild. The Conservation Center became a hub of careful observation as Storm's behaviors continued to evolve. He maintained his unusual gentleness with humans while developing the strength and skills necessary for wild survival. The team noted how he would often pause during training sessions, seemingly processing and adapting the techniques he'd learned to suit his natural abilities. This blend of learned and instinctive behavior became a central focus of Dr. Thompson's research. Lieutenant Collins worked with local wildlife authorities to identify potential release sites, carefully considering factors like food availability, territory size, and distance from human settlements. The chosen location would need to provide ample opportunities for Storm to apply his learned skills while maintaining a safe distance from populated areas. This planning process became increasingly detailed as release day approached. Maria's medical reports continued to show excellent progress in Storm's physical condition. His weight had reached optimal levels for his age, and his coordination showed remarkable improvement. Regular health assessments confirmed his readiness for wild living, though each positive report brought mixed emotions to the team who had invested so much in his recovery. The unique relationship between Mike and Storm continued to deepen even as the rehabilitation team worked to prepare for their inevitable separation. During quiet moments between training sessions, observers noted how Storm would still seek out Mike's presence, showing a level of trust and awareness that defied conventional understanding of wild animal behavior. These interactions became precious to everyone involved, knowing they were numbered. The Conservation Center carefully managed increasing media interest in Storm's story, balancing the value of public awareness with the need to maintain focus on rehabilitation goals. Local news outlets shared updates on his progress, helping to raise awareness about wildlife conservation while respecting the sensitive nature of the rehabilitation process. The public's response reflected a deep appreciation for this unique example of cross-species connection and commitment to wildlife preservation. The turning point in Storm's rehabilitation came on a brilliant summer morning when the Alaskan sun painted the Conservation Center in shades of gold. Dr. Martinez had just finished her morning assessment when Storm displayed a behavior that would forever change the team's understanding of wildlife rehabilitation. The young bear, now growing into his strength, initiated a series of interactions that showed remarkable cognitive development beyond anything previously documented in bear behavior. During what began as a routine training session, Storm demonstrated an unprecedented level of problem-solving ability. Ryan Cooper had designed a complex foraging challenge, hiding food in increasingly difficult-to-access locations throughout the enclosure. Instead of relying on brute strength or learned patterns, Storm methodically worked through each obstacle, showing clear signs of strategic thinking. What amazed the observers wasn't just his success, but the way he would pause, assess, and adapt. His approach, based on previous attempts. Mike watched from his usual position as Storm navigated the challenges, noting how the bear's methods seemed to incorporate both natural instincts and learned behaviors in innovative ways. Dr. Thompson, who had arrived early that morning to continue his research, frantically recorded every detail of Storm's performance. The young bear's ability to synthesize different learning experiences into new solutions challenged everything the wildlife expert thought he knew about ursine intelligence. The real breakthrough came when Storm encountered a particularly challenging puzzle that required multiple steps to solve. Without hesitation, he looked directly at Mike, making the soft, huffing sound that had become their unique form of communication. The bear then proceeded to demonstrate his own solution to the problem, one that neither Mike nor the rehabilitation team had previously shown him. It was a clear indication that Storm had moved beyond simple mimicry to true problem-solving ability. Lieutenant Collins, who had been documenting the session, immediately recognized the significance of this development. Storm wasn't just surviving or recovering, he was actively learning and adapting in ways that suggested a remarkable level of cognitive sophistication. The young bear had developed his own methodology for tackling challenges while maintaining his extraordinary connection with Mike. Maria Ramirez noticed another significant change in Storm's behavior patterns. While he continued to show special recognition of Mike, he had begun to interact more confidently with other team members, displaying appropriate caution while demonstrating an understanding of different human boundaries. This balance of trust and natural wariness would be crucial for his survival in the wild. The rehabilitation team gathered that afternoon to discuss the implications of Storm's breakthrough. Dr. Martinez emphasized how this development could revolutionize their understanding of wildlife rehabilitation. James Parker began revising their release timeline, recognizing that Storm's exceptional progress might allow for an earlier transition to the wild than initially planned. Kate Sullivan's photographs from that morning captured the intensity of Storm's focus during his problem-solving sessions. Her images revealed subtle details, the way his eyes would narrow in concentration, the deliberate pause before attempting a new approach, the quick glances toward Mike that seemed to convey both confidence and connection. These photographs would later become crucial documentation for understanding the cognitive development possible in rehabilitated wildlife. Technical Sergeant Chen visited the center that afternoon, bringing news that the base commanders had approved an extended observation period following Storm's eventual release. This decision reflected the military's growing investment in understanding how this unique rehabilitation case could inform their environmental stewardship programs. Mike's role would continue even after Storm's return to the wild, allowing him to document the bear's transition to independent living. The afternoon brought another remarkable demonstration of Storm's development. During a fishing training session in the center's artificial stream, he showed not only mastery of traditional bear fishing techniques, but also displayed innovation in his approach. The young bear had developed his own method of herding fish into shallower waters, showing a level of planning and execution that left even the experienced wildlife experts amazed. Dr. Thompson spent hours that evening reviewing footage of Storm's breakthroughs, consulting with colleagues across the country about the implications of these developments. The young bear's achievements were forcing a reassessment of conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation and animal intelligence. Questions arose about the potential for other animals to display similar cognitive growth given the right circumstances and support. As the long summer day drew to a close, Mike spent quiet time near Storm's enclosure, reflecting on the day's events. The bear's soft huffing sounds carried their usual warmth of recognition, but now seemed to hold a new note of confidence. Their bond had evolved into something that transcended the usual boundaries between human and wild animal, a partnership of mutual understanding and respect. James Parker began drafting new protocols based on the day's observations, recognizing that Storm's case could serve as a model for future rehabilitation efforts. The success they were witnessing wasn't just about physical recovery or survival skills. It represented a new understanding of the potential for cognitive and emotional development in rehabilitated wildlife. The Conservation Center buzzed with renewed energy as team members discussed the implications of Storm's breakthrough. Each success, each new demonstration of intelligence and adaptation added to their understanding while bringing them closer to the bittersweet reality of his eventual release. The coming weeks would be crucial in ensuring that Storm's remarkable progress translated into survival skills for life in the wild. The news of Storm's breakthrough quickly spread through the wildlife rehabilitation community. Requests for observation, visits and research collaboration began pouring in, though the center carefully managed access to maintain the integrity of Storm's rehabilitation process. The scientific implications of his case were becoming increasingly significant, suggesting new possibilities for wildlife rehabilitation techniques worldwide. The late summer days brought increasing focus on Storm's social development as the rehabilitation team worked to ensure his natural instincts remained sharp despite his unique bond with humans. Dr. Martinez designed new exercises that would challenge Storm to rely more on his innate abilities while maintaining the remarkable intelligence he had developed during his recovery. The balance was delicate, preserving the trust he had built while preparing him for a solitary life in the wild. Each morning began with increasingly complex foraging challenges that required Storm to use all his senses. Ryan Cooper created elaborate setups throughout the expanded enclosure, hiding food in ways that mimicked natural conditions. The young bear's approach to these challenges continued to amaze the team, showing a sophisticated blend of learned techniques and natural instincts that suggested he would thrive in the wild. Mike's role evolved during this period, shifting from active participant to distant observer. Dr. Thompson noted how Storm would still acknowledge Mike's presence with their special vocalizations, but now focused more intently on solving problems. independently. This gradual transition became a crucial part of preparing both bear and human for their eventual separation. Lieutenant Collins coordinated with wildlife experts to develop a comprehensive monitoring plan for Storm's post-release period. The military base's support enabled them to implement advanced tracking systems that would help them understand how Storm's learned behaviors translated to wild survival. The data would prove invaluable for future rehabilitation programs while ensuring Storm's safety during his transition. Maria Ramirez's detailed health assessments showed Storm reaching peak physical condition. His muscular development, respiratory capacity, and overall fitness levels exceeded expectations for his age. These positive indicators reinforce the team's growing confidence in his ability to thrive independently, though each successful evaluation brought them closer to farewell. The Conservation Center's atmosphere grew increasingly focused as summer waned. James Parker worked with regional wildlife authorities to finalize release site preparations, ensuring the chosen location would provide optimal conditions for Storm's transition to wild living. The selected area offered abundant natural food, sources, minimal human contact, and sufficient territory for a young male bear to establish himself. Kate Sullivan's photography captured the subtle changes in Storm's behavior, his increasing independence, the confident set of his shoulders, the alert awareness in his eyes as he surveyed his surroundings. Her images revealed a maturing bear who had retained his extraordinary intelligence while developing the natural wariness necessary for survival. These photographs would later become part of a comprehensive study on successful wildlife rehabilitation. Technical Sergeant Chen arranged for Mike to participate in surveillance flights over the proposed release area, allowing him to familiarize himself with the territory where Storm would make his new home. These reconnaissance missions helped the team identify potential challenges and opportunities in the landscape, information that would prove crucial for monitoring Storm's adaptation to wild living. Dr. Thompson continued his research, particularly interested in how Storm's learned behaviors might influence his adaptation to natural environments. The bear's problem-solving abilities had far exceeded initial expectations, suggesting new possibilities for understanding wildlife cognitive development. His case study was already influencing rehabilitation practices at other facilities across the country. The late summer brought increased activity around Storm's enclosure as the team implemented the final phases of his preparation. They gradually reduced human contact while increasing the complexity of environmental challenges. Storm's response to these changes showed remarkable adaptability, maintaining his intelligent approach to problem-solving while developing appropriate caution toward human presence. As autumn approached the Alaskan wilderness, the rehabilitation team faced their most significant challenge yet. Finding the perfect balance between Storm's remarkable human connections and his need for wild independence became increasingly complex. Dr. Martinez spent long hours observing his behavior, noting how the young bear navigated between his learned intelligence and natural instincts. The expanded enclosure now featured multiple environmental zones, each designed to test different survival skills. Ryan Cooper had transformed the space into a miniature wilderness, complete with artificial streams, dense vegetation, and hidden food caches. Storm's approach to these challenges revealed a sophisticated understanding that went beyond basic survival instincts. Technical Sergeant Chen worked closely with wildlife experts to develop new protocols based on Storm's unique case. The military's involvement had evolved from simple support to active participation in wildlife rehabilitation research. Their experiences with Storm were already influencing how the base handled wildlife encounters during training exercises. Lieutenant Collins documented every aspect of Storm's behavioral changes as autumn progressed. His interactions with the rehabilitation team grew more selective, showing appropriate caution while maintaining his extraordinary problem-solving abilities. The young bear had developed a remarkable ability to assess situations and respond with calculated precision, whether foraging for food or navigating social interactions. Dr. Thompson's research team expanded their studies to include detailed analysis of Storm's vocalizations. They discovered that his communication patterns had evolved beyond typical bear behavior, showing sophisticated variations depending on the situation and individual he was interacting with. His special calls for Mike remained unique, but he had developed a broader range of vocalizations for different circumstances. Maria Ramirez focused on Storm's physical development, tracking how his natural behaviors integrated with learned skills. His fishing technique had become particularly impressive, combining traditional bear methods with innovative approaches that showed remarkable efficiency. These adaptations suggested he would be well equipped to handle the challenges of wild living. The Conservation Center buzzed with activity as researchers from various institutions came to observe Storm's progress. James Parker carefully managed these visits, ensuring they didn't interfere with the rehabilitation process while allowing valuable data collection. Each observation added to their understanding of the potential for cognitive development in rehabilitated wildlife. Kate Sullivan's photographs captured crucial moments of Storm's autumn preparation. Her images showed him testing his strength against fallen logs, practicing defensive postures, and demonstrating increasing proficiency in natural bear behaviors. The visual documentation provided valuable insights into his development and would later contribute to improved rehabilitation techniques. The team faced daily challenges in maintaining the delicate balance between Storm's exceptional intelligence and his wild nature. Dr. Martinez designed increasingly complex exercises that required him to rely more on instinct while utilizing his learned problem-solving abilities. These sessions revealed Storm's remarkable capacity to adapt and integrate different aspects of his experience. Mike's role continued to evolve as Storm's independence grew. Their bond remained strong, but their interactions became more distant, preparing both for the inevitable separation. The military staff sergeant found himself in an unprecedented position, helping to document the transition of a highly intelligent wild animal from rehabilitation to release. The autumn weather brought new challenges as Storm's natural instincts responded to seasonal changes. His foraging became more intense, and he showed increasing interest in the wilderness beyond his enclosure. The rehabilitation team used these natural urges to enhance his preparation, creating scenarios that would test his readiness for wild living. Dr. William Thompson expanded his research to include comparative studies with other rehabilitated bears, highlighting the unique aspects of Storm's development. His findings suggested new possibilities for wildlife rehabilitation, particularly in cases involving young animals with high cognitive potential. The Conservation Center's daily routine adapted to Storm's changing needs. His feeding schedule became more irregular, mimicking the uncertainties of wild food availability. The team observed how he responded to these changes, noting his ability to plan and adapt his behavior accordingly. As the days grew shorter, Storm's preparation intensified. The rehabilitation team introduced new challenges daily, testing his responses to various wildlife scenarios. His ability to navigate these situations showed a sophisticated blend of learned intelligence and natural instinct that gave them hope for his future success. The military base continued its support, providing resources and expertise that enhanced The rehabilitation process, their involvement, had created a unique model for cooperation between military installations and wildlife conservation efforts, with Storm's case serving as a compelling example of successful collaboration. The story of the soldier and the bear he saved began capturing hearts beyond the confines of the Military Wildlife Conservation Center. Local media outlets caught wind of the extraordinary tale, but it was Kate Sullivan's compelling photographs that first brought widespread attention to Storm's remarkable journey. Her images, showing the powerful bond between Mike and the young bear, touched something deep in people's understanding of the connection possible between humans and wildlife. Dr. Thompson's initial research papers on Storm's rehabilitation gained traction in scientific circles, drawing attention from wildlife experts worldwide. The unprecedented nature of Storm's cognitive development and his unique relationship with Mike challenged conventional wisdom about wildlife rehabilitation. Universities began requesting access to the center's documentation, eager to study this groundbreaking case. Lieutenant Collins found herself managing increasing media interest while protecting the integrity of Storm's rehabilitation. News crews sought permission to document the extraordinary story, forcing the team to balance public interest with Storm's needs. The military base's public affairs office became involved, recognizing the positive impact this story could have on public perception of military environmental stewardship. Documentarians approached the center, interested in capturing the full scope of Storm's journey. James Parker carefully vetted these requests, eventually allowing a select team to begin documenting the rehabilitation process. Their presence required careful management to ensure Storm's preparation for wild living remained the priority. Maria Ramirez's detailed medical records became the foundation for several scientific studies on accelerated wildlife recovery. Her documentation of Storm's physical rehabilitation provided valuable insights into the potential for enhanced healing when animals received intensive, specialized care. Medical journals began publishing articles analyzing various aspects of his case. Technical Sergeant Chen coordinated with military leadership to develop new wildlife management protocols based on lessons learned from Storm's rehabilitation. The base's environmental policies underwent significant revisions, incorporating more sophisticated approaches to wildlife encounters. Storm's case became a model for military installations nationwide. Dr. Martinez found herself frequently consulting with other wildlife rehabilitation centers, sharing insights gained from Storm's unique case. The innovative techniques developed during his recovery showed promise for improving rehabilitation outcomes across various species. Centers across the country began implementing modified versions of their protocols. The conservation center's reputation grew as Storm's story spread. Requests for tours and observations increased dramatically, requiring careful scheduling to maintain the facility's primary focus on wildlife rehabilitation. Each visitor left with a deeper appreciation for the possibilities in wildlife conservation and the importance of human compassion. Ryan Cooper's environmental enrichment programs gained recognition in conservation circles. His innovative approaches to preparing Storm for wild living attracted attention from wildlife professionals seeking to enhance their own rehabilitation techniques. The success of these methods led to their adoption at other facilities. Public support for the Conservation Center grew as Storm's story touched more hearts. Local businesses and community organizations began offering resources and support for wildlife rehabilitation efforts. The center's capacity to help other animals expanded through this unexpected wave of generosity, inspired by one bear's remarkable journey. Dr. William Thompson published comprehensive analyses of Storm's cognitive development, highlighting the extraordinary levels of intelligence and emotional awareness observed during his rehabilitation. These publications sparked debates in scientific circles about the potential for enhanced rehabilitation techniques across species. Kate Sullivan's photography exhibition, featuring Storm's journey, opened at a prestigious gallery in Anchorage. The images captured the essence of his rehabilitation story: the desperate beginning, the developing bond with Mike, and the gradual transformation into a magnificent young bear preparing for return to the wild. Visitors often left the exhibition with tears in their eyes and a new perspective on wildlife conservation. The military base organized educational programs based on Storm's rehabilitation, teaching local school children about wildlife conservation and environmental responsibility. Mike occasionally participated in these programs, sharing his unique experience and inspiring young minds to consider careers in conservation and environmental protection. Conservation organizations began studying the center's methods, particularly interested in the successful integration of military resources with wildlife rehabilitation efforts. Storm's case demonstrated the potential for collaboration between seemingly disparate institutions in achieving conservation goals. The scientific community's interest intensified as Storm's release date approached. Researchers prepared to document every aspect of his transition to wild living, hoping to understand how his extraordinary cognitive development would influence his survival abilities. The data would prove invaluable for future rehabilitation efforts. The preparation for Storm's release intensified as autumn painted the Alaskan wilderness in brilliant hues of gold and crimson. Dr. Martinez gathered the rehabilitation team for increasingly frequent meetings, meticulously reviewing every detail of the upcoming transition. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air as they discussed final preparations for returning their extraordinary patient to the wild. Technical Sergeant Chen worked with military command to coordinate surveillance of the release area, establishing protocols for monitoring Storm's adaptation to his new territory. The chosen location in the remote Kenai Peninsula offered ideal conditions: abundant food sources, minimal human contact, and sufficient space for a young male bear to establish his territory. Satellite mapping provided detailed information about the terrain, helping the team anticipate potential challenges. Mike spent long hours studying maps of the release site, memorizing every ridge and valley where Storm would make his new home. His military training proved invaluable as he helped develop tracking strategies that would allow them to monitor Storm's progress while maintaining a respectful distance. The soldier found himself analyzing the terrain as he would for a mission, but this time his objective was ensuring the successful transition of his remarkable friend to independent living. Dr. Thompson conducted final assessments of Storm's readiness for release, documenting the sophisticated behaviors that set him apart from typical rehabilitation cases. The young bear's problem-solving abilities had reached extraordinary levels, while his natural instincts remained sharp and intact. And these observations formed the basis for groundbreaking research on cognitive development in rehabilitated wildlife. Maria Ramirez performed comprehensive health evaluations, confirming Storm's excellent physical condition. His powerful frame carried the perfect amount of weight for winter survival, and his thick coat gleamed with health. Blood work and vital signs showed a bear in peak condition, ready to face the challenges of wild living. Each positive indicator brought both pride and a touch of sadness to the medical team. Lieutenant Collins coordinated with wildlife authorities to secure the necessary permits and establish clear guidelines for post-release monitoring. The military base's involvement added layers of complexity to the planning, requiring careful balance between environmental regulations and military protocols. Her diplomatic skills proved essential in navigating these bureaucratic challenges. The Conservation Center's atmosphere grew increasingly emotional as release day approached. Staff members found themselves lingering near Storm's enclosure, treasuring these final days of connection with the extraordinary bear who had touched so many lives. Even the most experienced wildlife professionals felt the weight of the impending farewell. Ryan Cooper focused on creating final challenges that would test Storm's readiness for independence. The exercises grew increasingly complex, requiring the young bear to rely completely on his own abilities without human guidance. Storm's performance continued to impress, showing sophisticated problem-solving while maintaining appropriate wariness of human presence. Kate Sullivan worked to capture these precious final days, her camera documenting the subtle changes in both bear and humans as they prepared for separation. Her photographs revealed the depth of emotion in Mike's eyes as he watched Storm master each new challenge, the pride mixed with inevitable sadness as their extraordinary journey together neared its end. James Parker oversaw the preparation of specialized tracking equipment that would allow them to monitor Storm's movements during his critical first months of freedom. The devices were carefully designed to be unobtrusive while providing essential data about his adaptation to wild living. Every detail was considered to ensure Storm's comfort and safety during the transition. The release site underwent final inspections as team members verified food sources and potential denning locations. Wallberries hung ripe on bushes, salmon still ran in nearby streams, and natural shelter options abounded. The location offered everything a young bear would need to establish himself in the wild, while remaining far enough from human settlements to minimize potential conflicts. Dr. Martinez conducted behavioral assessments that focused on Storm's responses to natural stimuli and potential threats. His reactions showed the perfect balance they had hoped to achieve, maintaining his exceptional intelligence while developing the cautious instincts necessary for survival. These final evaluations confirmed his readiness for release while highlighting the groundbreaking nature of his rehabilitation. Mike began the difficult process of creating more distance in their interactions, helping Storm adjust to decreased human contact. Their unique bond remained strong, but the nature of their connection evolved as Storm showed increasing independence. The soft, huffing sounds that had characterized their communication became less frequent, though no less meaningful when they occurred. The team developed detailed contingency plans for various scenarios that might arise during and after release. Each possibility was carefully considered and planned for, from adverse weather conditions to potential territorial conflicts with other bears. Their preparation was thorough, yet they all understood that Storm's success would ultimately depend on his own abilities and instincts. The military base provided additional resources for monitoring the release area, including thermal imaging equipment that would help track Storm's movements during his early days of freedom. These tools would prove invaluable in understanding how he adapted to his new environment while maintaining a respectful distance that would allow him to truly return to the wild. The autumn morning of Storm's release dawned crisp and clear in the Alaskan wilderness. Golden sunlight filtered through the changing leaves, painting the landscape in brilliant hues that seemed to bid farewell to the extraordinary bear who had captured so many hearts. At the Military Wildlife Conservation Center, the atmosphere was charged with emotion as the team made final preparations for the moment they had worked toward and dreaded in equal measure. Dr. Martinez arrived before sunrise, performing one last health check as Storm waited calmly in his transport cage. The young bear's composure struck everyone present. There was no sign of the usual stress wild animals displayed during transport preparation. Instead, Storm maintained the remarkable awareness and intelligence that had characterized his rehabilitation, his eyes tracking every movement with understanding. Technical Sergeant Chen coordinated with the military support team, ensuring the transport vehicles and monitoring equipment were ready for the journey to the release site. The convoy would include specialized vehicles carrying tracking equipment, medical supplies, and documentation gear. Kate Sullivan's cameras were prepared to capture every moment of this historic event. Mike stood quietly near the transport cage, his military training helping him maintain composure despite the emotion of the moment. Storm acknowledged his presence with their familiar, soft huffing sound, though something in the tone seemed different. Almost reassuring, as if the bear understood the significance of this day. The bond between soldier and bear had evolved into something that transcended their initial roles of rescuer and rescued. The journey to the release site took them deep into the Kenai Peninsula's pristine wilderness. The convoy moved carefully, along remote access roads, each mile taking them further from the familiar confines of the conservation center and closer to Storm's new life. Dr. Thompson used the time to make final notes on Storm's behavior, documenting every detail of his remarkable composure during transport. Lieutenant Collins managed communications between the various teams involved in the release operation. Weather conditions were perfect. Clear skies would allow for optimal tracking during Storm's first crucial hours of freedom. The release site had been carefully prepared, with monitoring stations established at strategic points to observe his adaptation to the wild. As they approached the chosen location, the team worked with practiced efficiency to make final preparations. The release site offered a perfect combination of features: a clearing surrounded by dense forest, with a salmon-rich stream nearby and plenty of natural food sources. Fall berries hung heavy on surrounding bushes, and signs of natural bear activity in the area suggested good habitat quality. Maria Ramirez conducted a final health check before release, confirming Storm's excellent condition. His powerful frame carried the ideal weight for winter survival, and his thick coat gleamed with health. Despite the long journey, his vital signs remained strong and steady, reflecting the extraordinary composure that had amazed the team throughout his rehabilitation. The moment of release approached with an almost ceremonial quality. The team positioned themselves at their designated observation points, cameras and monitoring equipment ready to document every aspect of Storm's return to the wild. The transport cage door was aligned with a natural corridor leading into the forest, offering Storm clear access to his new territory. Mike positioned himself where Storm could see him one last time, their final moments together, heavy with unspoken meaning. The young bear's eyes held the same intelligence that had marked their extraordinary journey together, but now there was something else. A wild readiness that spoke of his preparation for this moment. The soft huffing sound that had become their private language echoed one last time in the clearing. When the cage door finally opened, Storm did something unexpected that left everyone present in tears. Instead of bolting for freedom as most rehabilitated animals would, he emerged with deliberate calm, his movements measured and purposeful. He paused at the threshold of his new life, surveying his surroundings with the intelligent awareness that had made his case so remarkable. The entire team held their breath as Storm took his first steps into true freedom. His powerful form moved with grace that belied his size, each movement showing the perfect integration of natural instinct and learned intelligence. He showed no fear, but rather a confident readiness to embrace his wild nature. In a moment that would be remembered by everyone present, Storm turned to face Mike one last time. The bear rose slightly on his hind legs, making the familiar gesture that had marked so many of their interactions during rehabilitation. The morning sun caught his fur, highlighting the magnificent creature he had become. No longer the dying cub from that desperate winter day, but a strong, intelligent being, ready to reclaim his place in the wild. The silence in the clearing was profound as Storm finally turned away, moving with purpose toward his new life. His form disappeared gradually into the forest, each step taking him further from the extraordinary chapter of his life with humans and closer to his true destiny as a wild bear. The team remained motionless, bearing witness to a farewell that represented both an ending and a beginning. Mike remained at his position long after Storm had disappeared from view, his military bearing finally softening as he allowed himself to feel the full weight of the moment. The successful rehabilitation and release of this remarkable bear represented more than just a professional achievement. It stood as testament to the extraordinary bonds possible between humans and wildlife, and the importance of giving every creature a chance at life. The weeks following Storm's release brought a different rhythm to the Military Wildlife Conservation Center. Each morning, Dr. Martinez and her team gathered to review data from the tracking devices, mapping Storm's movements through his new territory. The young bear's adaptation to wild living proved as remarkable as his rehabilitation, showing patterns that reflected both natural instinct and intelligent decision-making. Technical Sergeant Chen coordinated regular surveillance flights over Storm's territory, providing valuable aerial observations without disturbing the bear's natural behavior. The military's sophisticated monitoring equipment offered unprecedented insights into how a rehabilitated bear with extraordinary cognitive abilities would adapt to independent living. Each report brought both relief and fascination as Storm demonstrated his capacity to thrive in the wild. Mike immersed himself in analyzing the tracking data, his military training lending precision to the task. The bear's movement patterns revealed a sophisticated understanding of his environment. Storm had quickly identified optimal feeding areas, established secure resting sites, and showed remarkable efficiency in his use of the territory. His behavior suggested he was successfully balancing his learned intelligence with natural instincts. Dr. Thompson spent long hours documenting Storm's adaptation strategies, noting how the bear's problem-solving abilities translated to wild living. The tracking data showed Storm using terrain features in ways that suggested he was applying his learned skills to natural challenges. His hunting and foraging patterns displayed an efficiency that exceeded typical bear behavior, while maintaining appropriate wariness of human-populated areas. Lieutenant Collins managed the complex network of wildlife observers stationed around Storm's territory. Their reports painted a picture of a bear who had successfully integrated into the wild ecosystem while retaining the extraordinary awareness that had characterized his rehabilitation. Storm's interactions with other wildlife showed natural behavior, in patterns, yet with subtle differences that reflected his unique development. Maria Ramirez analyzed the remote health monitoring data, tracking indicators of Storm's physical condition through his tracking collar. The readings consistently showed a healthy, active bear successfully managing the demanding energy requirements of wild living. His vital signs remained strong, and his movement patterns indicated he was maintaining the excellent condition he had achieved during rehabilitation. The Conservation Center became a hub for analyzing Storm's post-release adaptation. James Parker coordinated with wildlife researchers who came to study the groundbreaking data emerging from this unique case. The successful integration of such an intellectually advanced, rehabilitated bear into wild living had implications for wildlife rehabilitation practices worldwide. Kate Sullivan's final photographs from release day became part of a traveling exhibition that helped raise awareness about wildlife rehabilitation. Her images captured the dignity of Storm's return to the wild, showing a magnificent bear who carried himself with confidence, born of both natural instinct and learned experience. The public response to these photographs helped generate support for wildlife conservation efforts across the region. Ryan Cooper used insights from storm's adaptation to refine the center's rehabilitation protocols. The bears' successful transition validated many of their innovative training approaches while suggesting new possibilities for preparing animals for release. Other rehabilitation facilities began incorporating elements of these methods into their programs. The military base expanded its environmental stewardship programs based on lessons learned from Storm's case. Technical Sergeant Chen developed new protocols for wildlife encounters during training exercises, incorporating deeper understanding of animal behavior and cognitive potential. Storm's story became a cornerstone of the base's environmental education initiatives. Dr. Martinez found herself frequently consulting with other wildlife professionals, eager to understand the implications of Storm's successful rehabilitation and release. The unprecedented nature of his case opened new possibilities for understanding wildlife intelligence and adaptation capabilities. Each piece of data from his post-release monitoring added to their knowledge of what was possible in wildlife rehabilitation. The tracking data revealed Storm's territory establishment following patterns that reflected both natural bear behavior and innovative problem-solving. He showed remarkable efficiency in his use of landscape features, selecting den sites that offered optimal protection while maintaining access to food sources. His movement patterns suggested he was creating a mental map of his territory that went beyond typical bear spatial awareness. Winter approached, and the team watched anxiously. As Storm prepared for his first hibernation in the wild, his behavior showed perfect intuition for the approaching season, increasing his foraging activity, identifying potential den sites, and gradually reducing his movement range. The tracking data suggested he had selected several possible den locations, evaluating each with characteristic thoroughness. As the days grew shorter, the monitoring team observed Storm making final preparations for winter. He chose a den site that demonstrated his sophisticated understanding of survival requirements, a location that offered protection from weather and predators while remaining close to early spring food sources. His selection process showed remarkable foresight and planning abilities. The first snow fell over Storm's territory, and the tracking data showed him settling into his chosen den. The team felt a mixture of pride and concern as they monitored his vital signs through the sophisticated tracking collar. Every indication suggested he was well prepared for the challenging Alaskan winter, having successfully adapted the skills learned during rehabilitation to wild living. 3 winters passed since Storm's release into the Alaskan wilderness. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center continued its vital work, though everyone who had been part of Storm's extraordinary rehabilitation carried the memory of their remarkable patient. Mike maintained his duties as a staff sergeant while assisting with wildlife monitoring programs, his experience with Storm having deepened his commitment to environmental stewardship. The tracking collar had long since gone silent, its battery life exhausted after providing invaluable data about Storm's first months of freedom. Dr. Martinez occasionally received reports from wildlife observers in the region, each confirmed, citing, bringing quiet satisfaction that their extraordinary patient continued to thrive in his natural habitat. The bear's territory remained remarkably stable, centered around the area where he had first been released. Spring arrived early that year, painting the Kenai Peninsula in vibrant colors as the wilderness awakened from its winter slumber. Mike found himself assigned to a routine patrol of the military training grounds, now expanded to include wildlife monitoring. The morning air carried the crisp scent of melting snow and new growth as he drove along the remote access road, his thoughts occasionally drifting to memories of the bear who had changed his understanding of wildlife rehabilitation. Dr. Thompson's research station, established to study local wildlife patterns, had recently reported unusual bear activity in the area. Their cameras had captured images of a massive male bear displaying behavior that caught the attention of wildlife experts. Unlike typical wild bears, this one showed remarkable awareness and seemed to maintain a consistent territory pattern, occasionally appearing near areas where humans conducted authorized activities. The bear's behavior puzzled researchers. It showed no aggression, yet demonstrated an unusual interest in human activities. Wildlife observers noted its distinctive way of watching, displaying an intelligence that made several researchers comment on its unique characteristics. The bear's size, estimated at well over 700 pounds, marked it as a successful adult male in his prime. Lieutenant Collins received the initial reports, immediately recognizing patterns that seemed hauntingly familiar. The bear's territory centered almost perfectly around the original release site, maintaining boundaries that had remained consistent for 3 years. Such stability was unusual for male bears, who typically ranged across much larger areas in search of resources and mates. Mike found himself assigned to investigate these reports, his experience with wildlife rehabilitation making him uniquely qualified to assess the situation. As he reviewed the surveillance footage, his heart raced. With possibility, the bear's movements showed a deliberate quality that struck a chord in his memory, a way of analyzing situations that seemed almost human in its intelligence. Dr. Martinez joined the investigation, bringing her expertise in wildlife behavior and her intimate knowledge of their most remarkable rehabilitation case. The team prepared for a careful observation mission, establishing monitoring points around the area where the bear had been most frequently sighted. The spring morning chosen for their expedition dawned clear and bright, perfect conditions for wildlife observation. Kate Sullivan accompanied the team, her cameras ready to document whatever they might discover. The observation post overlooked a small valley where the bear had been regularly spotted, the location offering clear views while maintaining a safe distance. The team settled in for what could be hours of patient waiting, though the atmosphere crackled with unspoken anticipation. The morning stretched on, the sun climbing higher in the Alaskan sky as they scanned the surrounding wilderness for any sign of movement. Dr. Thompson used the time to share his analysis of the bear's reported behaviors, highlighting the remarkable similarities to patterns they had observed years before. The possibility that seemed too extraordinary to voice hung in the air between them. Movement at the forest edge caught their attention as the morning light strengthened. A massive brown bear emerged from the shadows, its fur gleaming golden. In the sunlight, the animal's size alone commanded respect, but it was the way it moved that caused the observers to catch their breath. Each step showed a deliberate awareness that seemed familiar to those who had known Storm. The bear paused in the clearing, testing the air with practiced precision. Its behavior showed none of the random patterns typical of wild bears. Instead, each movement appeared calculated and purposeful. The animal's head turned toward their observation post with an alertness that suggested more than just natural wariness. What happened next left the entire team in stunned silence. The bear rose, slightly on its hind legs, executing a gesture that Mike had seen countless times during Storm's rehabilitation. The pose lasted only moments, but it carried a weight of recognition that brought tears to the eyes of those who had been part of that extraordinary journey 3 years earlier. Dr. Martinez studied the bear's behavior through binoculars, noting every detail that suggested this magnificent animal might indeed be their former patient. The size and age matched their projections for Storm's development, and the bear's unusual behavioral patterns aligned perfectly with the exceptional intelligence they had nurtured during his rehabilitation. The bear maintained its position in the clearing, showing no fear yet keeping a respectful distance. Its eyes, visible even from their observation point, held an intelligence that seemed to bridge the years between past and present. The moment stretched like honey, thick with unspoken recognition and the weight of possibility. Technical Sergeant Chen's surveillance team documented Storm's sophisticated territorial behaviors through the changing seasons. Advanced tracking methods revealed how the bear utilized different areas of his range with remarkable efficiency, adapting his movements to maximize access to seasonal food sources while maintaining safe distances from human activity. His patterns showed an intelligence in resource management that exceeded typical wild bear behavior. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center established a specialized research division dedicated to studying cognitive development in rehabilitated wildlife. Dr. Martinez led teams of scientists in analyzing data from Storm's case, discovering new insights into the potential for enhanced rehabilitation techniques. Their findings suggested possibilities for improving outcomes across various species while maintaining natural instincts. Mike's role expanded to include training other military personnel in wildlife conservation practices. His unique experience with Storm provided valuable perspective as he developed programs that balanced military operations with environmental protection. Young soldiers found themselves deeply moved by the story of compassion and connection that had transformed their base's approach to wildlife management. Dr. Thompson's ongoing research revealed increasingly complex patterns in Storm's behavior. The bear showed sophisticated problem-solving abilities in his approach to natural challenges, combining learned intelligence with wild instincts in ways that challenged conventional understanding of animal cognition. His success demonstrated how enhanced rehabilitation techniques could contribute to more effective wild living. Kate Sullivan's photographic documentation of Storm's territory revealed fascinating details about his adaptation to seasonal changes. Her images captured moments of remarkable intelligence, complex foraging strategies, innovative hunting techniques, and careful territory management that showed the lasting impact of his unique rehabilitation experience. Lieutenant Collins coordinated with wildlife authorities to establish expanded protection zones around Storm's territory. The military base's support proved crucial in creating these special management areas, demonstrating how human activities and wildlife preservation could coexist harmoniously. Their success influenced environmental policies at military installations nationwide. Maria Ramirez continued monitoring Storm's physical development through sophisticated tracking technology. Her data showed how his exceptional cognitive abilities enhanced his survival strategies, leading to more efficient hunting and foraging patterns. These insights provided valuable information for improving rehabilitation protocols for other injured wildlife. Ryan Cooper incorporated lessons from Storm's ongoing success into enhanced environmental enrichment programs. His innovative methods helped other rehabilitated animals develop the complex skills necessary for wild living while maintaining appropriate caution toward humans. The success of these programs influenced wildlife rehabilitation practices worldwide. James Parker worked with international conservation organizations to share insights gained from Storm's case. The center's innovative approaches to wildlife rehabilitation gained recognition across the global conservation community, leading to collaborative programs that benefited animals around the world. The scientific community's understanding of wildlife intelligence expanded as researchers studied the long-term implications of Storm's case. His ability to maintain sophisticated awareness while thriving in the wild challenged traditional assumptions about animal cognition and rehabilitation potential. These insights opened new avenues for research into wildlife consciousness and adaptation. Local communities embraced wildlife conservation with renewed enthusiasm, inspired by Storm's ongoing success story. Educational programs flourished, teaching new generations about the importance of compassionate action and environmental stewardship. The impact of one soldier's decision to help a dying bear cub continued to influence public understanding of wildlife preservation. Storm's territory became a living laboratory for studying successful wildlife rehabilitation. Regular monitoring showed how he had adapted learned behaviors to enhance his survival skills, while maintaining the extraordinary awareness that made his case unique. His success challenged assumptions about the limitations of rehabilitated animals and opened new possibilities for wildlife conservation. The military's commitment to environmental protection grew stronger, influenced by the positive outcomes of Storm's case. Base commanders recognized the value of preserving wildlife habitats within their training areas, leading to enhanced conservation measures across military installations. The integration of military resources with wildlife protection efforts created new standards for environmental stewardship. Wildlife rehabilitation centers worldwide began incorporating elements of the techniques developed during Storm's recovery into their practices. These sophisticated approaches showed promising results in helping injured animals develop the skills necessary for successful return to natural habitats while maintaining their wild instincts. The implications of Storm's story continued to influence broader conversations about animal intelligence and emotional capacity. His demonstrated ability to maintain both wild success and sophisticated awareness challenged traditional understanding of wildlife behavior. Researchers began exploring new possibilities for understanding the depth and complexity of animal consciousness. The enduring impact of Storm's rehabilitation continued shaping wildlife conservation practices across the globe. Universities established specialized research programs dedicated to studying the enhanced cognitive development techniques pioneered. During his recovery, Dr. Martinez found herself leading international symposiums where experts gathered to explore the implications of Storm's remarkable case for understanding wildlife intelligence. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center expanded its facilities to include a state-of-the-art rehabilitation wing specifically designed to implement the innovative approaches developed during Storm's recovery. James Parker oversaw the construction of specialized training areas that incorporated lessons learned from Storm's successful transition back to wild living. Each new case benefited from the deeper understanding of animal cognition gained through his extraordinary journey. Mike's role evolved to include consulting with military bases worldwide on wildlife conservation initiatives. His unique experience with Storm provided invaluable insights as installations sought to balance training requirements with environmental protection. The story of the soldier and the bear became a powerful example of how military operations could coexist with and even enhance wildlife preservation efforts. Dr. Thompson's research team continued documenting Storm's sophisticated territorial behaviors through advanced monitoring systems. The bear's success in wild living while maintaining his enhanced cognitive abilities challenged traditional assumptions about wildlife rehabilitation. His case provided compelling evidence that rehabilitated animals could develop advanced problem-solving skills without compromising their natural instincts. Lieutenant Collins worked with environmental policymakers to establish new standards for wildlife protection on military lands. The protocols developed through Storm's case influenced regulations across government agencies, creating more effective approaches to managing human-wildlife interactions. The success of these programs demonstrated how institutional support could enhance conservation efforts. Maria Ramirez's medical research expanded to include studies of brain development in rehabilitated wildlife. The sophisticated healing patterns observed during Storm's recovery suggested new possibilities for treating severe injuries in wild animals. Her findings revolutionized understanding of wildlife rehabilitation potential, leading to improved treatment protocols worldwide. Ryan Cooper's environmental enrichment programs evolved into comprehensive systems for preparing injured wildlife for successful release. His methods, refined through experience with Storm and subsequent cases, showed remarkable success in helping animals develop enhanced survival skills while maintaining appropriate wariness of humans. Rehabilitation centers worldwide adopted elements of his innovative approaches. Kate Sullivan's photographic documentation of Storm's journey became part of major museum exhibitions exploring the relationship between humans and wildlife. Her images captured the progression from desperate rescue to triumphant recovery, telling a story that continued inspiring support for wildlife conservation efforts globally. The power of her photographs helped generate crucial funding for rehabilitation programs. The scientific community's understanding of animal intelligence expanded dramatically as researchers continued studying the implications of Storm's case. His demonstrated ability to maintain sophisticated awareness while thriving in the wild opened new avenues for research into wildlife consciousness and adaptation. These insights influenced approaches to wildlife rehabilitation across species. Storm's territory became a protected research area where scientists studied the long-term success of enhanced rehabilitation techniques. Regular monitoring showed how his learned behaviors had integrated seamlessly with natural instincts, creating more efficient survival strategies. These observations provided valuable data for improving rehabilitation outcomes worldwide. The military's commitment to environmental protection grew stronger as bases recognized the positive outcomes possible through dedicated conservation efforts. Storm's story influenced training protocols and land management practices, leading to enhanced protection for wildlife on military installations worldwide. The integration of military resources with wildlife conservation created new possibilities for environmental stewardship. As wildlife rehabilitation centers incorporated elements of Storm's recovery program into their practices, success rates for complex cases improved significantly. The sophisticated approaches developed during his rehabilitation proved adaptable across species, helping injured animals develop enhanced survival skills while maintaining their essential wild nature. The implications of Storm's story reached beyond wildlife rehabilitation to influence broader conversations about animal cognition and emotional capacity. His remarkable journey challenged traditional assumptions about the limitations of rehabilitated wildlife, suggesting new possibilities for understanding and nurturing animal intelligence. Technical Sergeant Chen's team continued monitoring the long-term effects of enhanced rehabilitation techniques through sophisticated tracking systems. Their data showed how animals treated using methods developed during Storm's recovery demonstrated improved survival rates and more sophisticated adaptation to wild living. The legacy of compassion and connection established through Storm's case continued inspiring action for wildlife conservation. His story demonstrated how human intervention, guided by understanding and respect, could make a profound difference in the lives of wild animals while preserving their essential nature. The ripple effects of one soldier's decision to help a dying bear cub transformed approaches to wildlife rehabilitation worldwide. The worldwide impact of Storm and Mike's story reverberated through scientific communities as researchers documented unprecedented changes in wildlife rehabilitation approaches. Dr. Martinez found herself at the forefront of a new scientific movement, establishing dedicated research facilities that focused on understanding the profound implications of enhanced cognitive development in rehabilitated wildlife. Her teams worked tirelessly to analyze data from similar cases, seeking patterns that could help refine and improve rehabilitation techniques. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center underwent a remarkable transformation, expanding its facilities to include specialized research wings and rehabilitation areas designed to implement the groundbreaking methods developed during storm's recovery. The innovative approaches pioneered in his case led to the creation of sophisticated training programs that combine traditional rehabilitation techniques with enhanced cognitive development protocols. Mike's influence extended far beyond his military role as he began working with international conservation organizations. His unique experience provided invaluable insights into the delicate balance between human activity and wildlife preservation. Military bases worldwide sought his expertise in developing environmental protection programs that could coexist with essential training operations. Dr. Thompson's ongoing research revealed increasingly sophisticated patterns in rehabilitated wildlife behavior. The success of Storm's case inspired new studies into animal intelligence and adaptation, challenging long-held assumptions about the limitations of wildlife rehabilitation. His findings suggested possibilities for understanding animal consciousness that had never before been considered possible. Lieutenant Collins spearheaded initiatives to create protected wildlife corridors connecting military lands with national forests and preserves. These innovative conservation projects demonstrated how military installations could serve as vital links in wildlife habitat preservation, creating safe passages for animals while maintaining operational readiness. The transformation of military environmental policies reached a pivotal moment as bases across the nation began implementing comprehensive wildlife protection protocols inspired by Storm's case. Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson emerged as a model installation demonstrating how military operations could harmoniously coexist with wildlife conservation efforts. The base's success in balancing tactical training requirements with environmental stewardship drew attention from military commanders worldwide. Technical Sergeant Chen developed sophisticated monitoring systems that allowed military personnel to track wildlife movements during training exercises. These advanced protocols enabled units to adjust their operations in real time, minimizing impact on local animal populations while maintaining combat readiness. The integration of environmental awareness into military planning created a new standard for responsible training practices. Special training courses emerged at the base's Environmental Protection Division, where Mike shared insights gained from his extraordinary experience. Young soldiers learned to approach wildlife encounters with understanding and respect, recognizing their role as stewards of the natural environments where they trained. The program's success led to its adoption at military installations across the country. The Department of Defense established a dedicated wildlife conservation task force, drawing expertise from successful programs like the one at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. Military planners worked alongside wildlife experts to develop strategies that protected critical animal habitats while ensuring troops received essential training. These collaborative efforts revolutionized the military's approach to environmental protection. Lieutenant Collins coordinated with regional commands to create a network of protected wildlife corridors connecting military lands with national forests and preserves. These innovative conservation projects demonstrated how military installations could serve as vital links in habitat preservation while maintaining operational readiness. The success of these initiatives influenced land management policies across all service branches. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center's groundbreaking approach to wildlife rehabilitation began influencing policies beyond the confines of traditional conservation efforts. Pentagon officials, recognizing the broader implications of Storm's CASE initiated a comprehensive review of environmental practices across all military installations. The resulting changes redefined how armed forces worldwide approached their role as environmental stewards. Major General Sarah Roberts, newly appointed head of Military Environmental Affairs, championed the expansion of wildlife protection programs across training grounds. Her vision integrated advanced monitoring systems with tactical exercises, ensuring military readiness while safeguarding natural habitats. Under her leadership, bases developed sophisticated protocols for managing wildlife encounters during operations. Technical Sergeant Chen's innovative tracking systems evolved into a standardized program adopted by bases worldwide. The technology allowed military units to maintain real-time awareness of wildlife movements, automatically adjusting training parameters to minimize environmental impact. This dynamic approach to environmental protection set new standards for military operations globally. The Joint Chiefs of Staff established dedicated environmental protection units at major installations, staffed by specialists trained in both military operations and wildlife conservation. These teams developed comprehensive strategies for maintaining combat readiness while preserving critical habitats. Their success demonstrated how military effectiveness could align with environmental responsibility. Lieutenant Collins spearheaded the development of international military conservation partnerships, coordinating with allied forces to implement wildlife protection measures during joint exercises. These collaborative efforts created standardized protocols for environmental stewardship that transcended national boundaries, influencing military planning worldwide. The transformation of Camp Pendleton's vast training grounds in Southern California marked a remarkable testament to the changing culture of military environmental stewardship. Master Sergeant David Rodriguez pioneered innovative wildlife protection protocols that enabled Marine combat units to conduct essential training while preserving critical habitats for endangered species. His teams documented unprecedented successes in protecting local wildlife populations, particularly the threatened Pacific pocket mouse and California least tern. Fort Bragg's expansive forests became a model for military wildlife coexistence under the guidance of Captain Sarah Mitchell. Her Environmental Protection Unit developed sophisticated monitoring systems that tracked the movements of red-cockaded woodpeckers during artillery exercises. The installation's success in maintaining training readiness while protecting endangered species populations drew attention from military planners worldwide. At Fort Carson, environmental protection specialist James Wilson revolutionized wildlife management practices in high-altitude training environments. His team's careful documentation of elk migration patterns led to the creation of dynamic training schedules that adapted to seasonal wildlife movements. The base's innovative approach demonstrated how military operations could enhance rather than hinder natural ecosystems. Naval Air Station Fallon's desert training ranges underwent remarkable transformation under the leadership of Commander Rachel Thompson. Her integration of advanced thermal imaging systems allowed pilots to conduct night training exercises while avoiding critical habitats for desert tortoise populations. The success of these protocols influenced aviation training procedures across all military branches. Fort Hood's expansive training grounds in Texas emerged as a pioneering force in military wildlife conservation under Colonel Michael Ramirez's leadership. His innovative approach integrated advanced drone technology with thermal imaging to create real-time wildlife monitoring systems during large-scale armored vehicle exercises. The success in protecting the endangered golden-cheeked warbler while maintaining combat readiness demonstrated the potential for harmony between military operations and environmental preservation. The sprawling desert ranges of Nellis Air Force Base transformed their approach to wildlife protection through Major Jennifer Chen's groundbreaking protocols. Her teams developed sophisticated software that tracked desert bighorn sheep movements, automatically adjusting flight patterns during combat training exercises. The dramatic increase in local wildlife populations proved that military aviation training could coexist with thriving desert ecosystems. Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, 29 Palms, revolutionized desert wildlife protection under gunnery. Sergeant Marcus Thompson's guidance. His environmental unit created a network of protected corridors that allowed desert tortoises to safely navigate between critical habitats while Marines conducted essential combat training. The base's success in balancing tactical requirements with wildlife preservation influenced military environmental policies worldwide. Joint Base Lewis McChord's vast forests became living laboratories for military wildlife cooperation through Captain Sarah Mitchell's innovative programs. Her teams utilized advanced acoustic monitoring systems to track northern spotted owl populations during nighttime training operations. The base's ability to maintain full tactical readiness while protecting endangered species demonstrated the effectiveness of integrated environmental protection measures. The transformation of Fort Wainwright's training areas showcased the military's evolving approach to Arctic wildlife conservation. Environmental protection specialist Lisa Anderson developed groundbreaking protocols for protecting caribou migration routes during winter warfare training. Her methods proved that military operations could adapt to wildlife patterns without compromising combat effectiveness. In the humid training grounds of Fort Benning, wildlife biologist Dr. James Cooper implemented revolutionary habitat protection measures. His team's careful management of longleaf pine ecosystems allowed endangered red-cockaded woodpeckers to thrive alongside intensive infantry training operations. The base's success story inspired similar programs across military installations nationwide. Naval Air Station Whidbey Island's coastal ranges demonstrated remarkable success in protecting marine wildlife under Commander Rachel Stevens' leadership. Her integration of advanced sonar monitoring systems with flight training schedules dramatically reduced impact on local orca populations. The base's achievements in balancing aviation training with marine conservation set new standards for coastal military installations. Fort Drum's Environmental Protection Unit pioneered new approaches to wildlife management in cold weather training environments. Lieutenant Colonel David Martinez developed sophisticated tracking systems that allowed military operations to adapt to the movements of endangered Indiana bats. The base's innovative methods proved that winter warfare training could support, rather than hinder, wildlife populations. The transformation of Eglin Air Force Base's coastal training areas showcased the military's commitment to environmental stewardship. Major Catherine Wong's teams utilized cutting-edge satellite technology to monitor sea turtle nesting sites during beach landing exercises. Their success in protecting endangered species while maintaining amphibious training capabilities influenced military environmental policies worldwide. Marine Corps Base Hawaii demonstrated extraordinary success in preserving island ecosystems under Captain Michael Kikoa's guidance. His environmental unit developed unique protocols for protecting endangered Hawaiian monk seals during littoral combat training. The base's ability to balance tactical requirements with wildlife conservation became a model for military installations in sensitive ecological areas. Fort Carson's mountain training ranges underwent remarkable transformation through environmental specialist Sarah Thompson's innovative programs. Her teams created dynamic training schedules that adapted to seasonal elk migrations while maintaining combat readiness. The installation's success proved that military operations could enhance rather than disrupt natural wildlife patterns. The desert ranges of Marine Corps Air Station Yuma showcased groundbreaking approaches to wildlife protection under Major Robert Garcia's leadership. His environmental unit developed sophisticated methods for tracking Sonoran pronghorn movements. During close air support training, their achievements demonstrated how advanced military aviation training could coexist with desert wildlife preservation. Edwards Air Force Base revolutionized their approach to desert wildlife management through Captain Lisa Chen's innovative programs. Her environmental protection unit developed an intricate network of wildlife corridors that allowed endangered Mojave Desert tortoises to thrive alongside advanced aerospace testing operations. Advanced tracking systems monitored tortoise movements in real time, automatically adjusting test flight patterns to protect critical habitat areas. Fort Irwin's vast training grounds demonstrated extraordinary success in preserving desert ecosystems under Colonel James Martinez's leadership. His teams implemented sophisticated thermal imaging systems that tracked bighorn sheep populations during large-scale armored warfare exercises. The base's ability to maintain full combat readiness while protecting endangered species influenced military environmental policies worldwide. Naval Air Station Oceana's coastal ranges underwent remarkable transformation through Commander Rachel Stevens' wildlife protection protocols. Her environmental unit developed advanced sonar monitoring systems that protected migrating whale populations during carrier qualification training. Their success in balancing aviation training requirements with marine conservation set new standards. For coastal military installations, Fort Campbell's expansive forests became a model for military wildlife coexistence under Major Michael Thompson's guidance. His teams utilized cutting-edge acoustic monitoring technology to track endangered gray bat populations during nighttime special operations training. The base's innovative approach proved that intensive military training could support rather than hinder wildlife preservation efforts. Joint Base San Antonio's training areas showcased groundbreaking approaches to urban wildlife protection through Dr. Sarah Rodriguez's conservation programs. Her environmental unit developed sophisticated protocols for protecting golden-cheeked warblers during military aircraft operations near populated areas. Their achievements demonstrated how military installations could maintain operational effectiveness while preserving critical urban wildlife habitats. The lasting legacy of Storm's extraordinary journey and the Military Wildlife Conservation Center's groundbreaking work continues transforming lives and policies worldwide. What began with one soldier's compassionate choice in the Alaskan wilderness sparked a revolution in how military forces approach environmental stewardship, creating ripples of change that touch every corner of global wildlife conservation. The innovative protocols developed through Storm's case have become standard practice at military installations worldwide. From the desert ranges of Fort Irwin to the coastal waters of Naval Station Norfolk, bases continue adapting these methods to protect local wildlife while maintaining combat readiness. Each success story adds another chapter to this remarkable legacy of transformation. Mike's influence extends far beyond his original role, as his experience helped shape environmental protection policies across international military forces. Storm's story serves as a powerful reminder that compassion and duty can work hand in hand, inspiring new generations of service members to become stewards of the natural world where they train and serve. The Military Wildlife Conservation Center stands as a living testament to the extraordinary possibilities that arise when human compassion meets professional expertise. Their continued success in wildlife rehabilitation and research demonstrates how one remarkable case can open new horizons in our understanding of animal intelligence and rehabilitation potential. As military bases worldwide embrace their role as environmental stewards, Storm's story remains a shining example of how human intervention, guided by understanding and respect, can make a profound difference while preserving the essential wildness of nature. The bond between a soldier and a bear continues inspiring action for wildlife conservation, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful changes begin with a single act of kindness. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.